My case is a 50 years old lady who is presented with the complaints of painless lump in the right breast for the last 6 months. She's hypertensive and she has diabetes mellitus. She has no family history of breast cancer or other malignancy. She is menopausal at the time of diagnosis. Her histopathology report shows FNS of the right breast lump, ductal carcinoma. Further investigation report reveals mammography of both breasts that she has irregular dense mass in upper and outer quadrant of right breast. And ultrasonogram of both breasts reveals hypoechoic mass, which is 2.8 by 2.2 centimeter in upper and outer quadrant of right breast with right axillary lymphadenopathy. We will do another mammography, which also reveals irregular dense mass in upper and outer quadrant of the right breast. Ultrasonogram of the whole abdomen reveals mild hepatomegaly with fatty glands. So she underwent surgery, which is mastectomy of the right breast with axillary dissection. Then post-surgical history, post-surgical histopathology report showed moderately differentiated. Margin is free, necrosis was not seen, vascular invasion seen, lymphovascular infiltration was moderate, tumor size was 3.5 centimeter, lymph node showed 4 by 16 positive, which showed metastasis. Then this biopsy report was reviewed on February, which reveals micropapillary pattern and neuroendocrine differentiation, grade 2. Lymphovascular invasion was present, perineural invasion was absent, lymph node was 4 positive in 17 number. Her immunohistochemistry showed right axillary lymph node, chromogranin A, synaptophysin positive, which is metastatic neuroendocrine carcinoma. And her ERPR positive, HER2 negative, Ki67 was 15%. Pathological stage was P-T2N2A. So she underwent adjuvant chemotherapy with epirubicin and cyclophosphamide from March 2021 to May 2021. Then post-chemotherapy investigation, we do CT test and upper abdomen CT scan, which reveals hyperdense irregular area or infiltrating lesion at the right side of the chest wall, which involving skin, subcutaneous tissue, and pectoral muscles. Maybe post-operative change. Encapsulated fluid collection at anterolateral aspect of the right chest wall, maybe accumulated exudates or seroma at the right chest region. The primary mass is decreased in size and extent of area and lesion was decreased since earlier CT scan. We do ultrasonogram of the both breasts, which reveals small collection in residual breast parenchyma in right side along incisional line. So this is my case. So my question is, what is the next plan of chemotherapy in view of neoadjuvant therapy of neuroendocrine tumor of the breast primary? And what is the prognosis of the breast in neuroendocrine tumor? That's it. Thank you all.
It doesn't sound like she has evidence of disease. Is that correct? Or do you think there's residual disease?
No. She has evidence of disease. There is a seroma there. And her
the seroma could be post-operative though, right?
Yeah, and the primary mass was reduced in size, not.
So I guess I'm just wondering if what you're seeing on the scans is post-operative versus active disease. So one of the things we would have done here, if that's the question, we would have accessed a PET scan to see if there was evidence of residual disease, because that makes all the difference in the world. I think so. To answer the second question, I think most of the data suggests that these neuroendocrine tumors of the breast do have a worse prognosis than ductal or lobular cancers, but there are varying histologies that are included in that, and I'm hoping that pathology can go into this. Was this a poorly differentiated neuroendocrine cancer? Grade 3?
It was grade 2.
Grade 2. Yeah, so, it's the grade 3s we worry about a lot as being sort of small cell, extrapulmonary small cell cancers. The good news is that these are hormone receptors positive. and you can actually use that for therapeutic reasons. In this patient, I would not go right to chemotherapy unless I was convinced she had persistent disease. And I would offer her endocrine therapy. Now, if you were convinced there was a persistent disease, one could try a small cell regimen like etoposide and carboplatin. But remember, you don't have that many therapies for these patients, and so I would try to use the chemotherapy judiciously for when you need it and you're sure of what you're looking at. It doesn't seem like at this point she has any disease outside of the breast and the chest wall. So you're not dealing with a situation of metastatic disease. And that sort of leads into, again, the question of intent of your therapy. She has already received the standard treatment of anthracycline and Cytoxan. You didn't give her Taxol. Certainly that could potentially be used just to wrap up her adjuvant regimen, right? You could give her the Taxol as well and call it a day and go to endocrine therapy. But I do think at this point, the endocrine therapy is going to make the most sense, particularly because the Ki-67, if I remember correctly, was on the low side. So this is not a very high proliferating tumor. I would also, I think she got radiation, correct?
No.
She has not. So I would radiate Yeah, I would definitely do the radiation part. And I guess that would be my sense. If she were to metastasize, then sending that tumor again for genomics would be an important thing. There was just a recent paper from the last year showing that, about 1 in 5 of these extra pulmonary neuroendocrine tumors may have a PIK3CA mutation, and 1 in 5 may have a TROP2A mutation as well. Both of those are actionable in the United States with alpelisib and now sacituzumab govitecan. So here, that is how we would answer. But I would love everybody else to comment on whether or not they interpret the scan as being persistent disease, because I think it's the most critical thing.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anjana Joel, madam.
Hi. So Arunakshu, just a couple of comments on this patient. So what would be interesting would be to actually look at the mastectomy specimen and to see what percentage of the tumor cells actually were synapto and chromogranin positive. So I think the neuroendocrine carcinoma is if you have more than 50% of your cells expressing that, and I don't recollect seeing that particular information. I kind of figured there was a grade 2 with the neuroendocrine differentiation. The other interesting thing is that when you did a biopsy, the immunohistochemistry was done both on the breast and as well as on the axillary lymph node. And the axillary lymph node very clearly expresses the neuroendocrine markers. And the Ki-67 is slightly different, even though it's only around 15 to 30%. In the breast, I think it was around 15 or so. And in the axilla, it was around 30. So overall, it's grade 2. It's not too high grade. It's not like a neuroendocrine carcinoma. Now, again, this is rare among the patients who we have treated in our center who have presented with a similar sort of a picture. We've not really changed the chemotherapy regimen to include platinum etoposide at first line. But because she has a T2N2 disease, I would definitely encourage you to go ahead and treat her with the taxanes. And maybe, and of course, followed by consolidation radiotherapy. And like Professor said, I think a PET scan would actually be a great investigation here to look for disseminated metastatic disease. I wouldn't really change the chemotherapy right away, probably just give her the taxane and then proceed with her adjuvant treatment. And I have a feeling what you're seeing on the CT is probably just a seroma anyway.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I'm Dr. Arifur Rahman, working as a consultant here. She's my resident, our resident. Actually, the CT scan is the seroma collection decreased size. I think it's not the local recurrence. And regarding the PET scan, do you suggest it is better for rather than PET scan or gallium-68 other scan, DOTA scan?
A DOTA scan. The thing is, this is a this is not a neuroendocrine tumor. This is a carcinoma breast with neuroendocrine differentiation. So I'm not really sure how much a DOTA PET would actually help this patient. But that's actually a great suggestion.
Okay.
I mean, I think right now, if your CT doesn't show any recurrent tumor, probably it would
Yes.
make sense for you to finish your taxane and as a part of your planning before radiation, you can go ahead with your PET.
And, regarding your question about the biopsy material, the surgery was done at a foreign country, I think in your country, India. So we don't have that great information about the 50% or something. So we don't have that information about the whole breast expression, what you already
Got it.
mentioned. So we don't have that information. So neuroendocrine is a aggressive tumor, we, as per understand, with review of literature. And that's why we present the case for your attention for the other people's management plan.
Sure.
Thank you.
Perhaps,
Thank you,
Professor
Dr.
Das, may I ask
Yeah,
for
sure,
the
sure.
pathologist to comment on neuroendocrine carcinomas of the breast? Because I think Dr. Joel is correct. There great heterogeneity in those tumors of the breast that we are calling neuroendocrine. So I think it would be really interesting just to hear from your pathologist about it.
What I feel is there are three types of neuroendocrine things which could happen in breast. One, if it is a well differentiated, it could be behaving more like a carcinoid, or if it is poorly differentiated, as Dr. Pointed out, it could be either from a small cell carcinoma of the lung, or it could be like a invasive carcinoma with neuroendocrine differentiation. This patient looks more like invasive carcinoma with neuroendocrine differentiation, and the good thing is like it's ER positive, but the bad thing is nodes are positive. The nodes, almost 4 nodes out of 24 nodes out of 16 are positive. Maybe I would plan for this patient to continue the RT first now, because she has completed 4 cycles of EC already. Maybe give RT and then put them on hormones, or start both concurrently together, and keep the next line of treatment with taxanes or etoposide based thing as for a recurrent disease.
Interesting case and very rare cases. There is no standard guidelines. So we were proceeding according to our standard protocol for the breast cancer, especially, and we will complete the chemotherapies followed by the external beam radiation therapies. And one thing is that what Dr. Don Dizan has told, that we can have a review from our pathologists like Professor Ghulam Musawwat to get the total pictures of the specimen, especially the gross. And one thing we will evaluate in especially the PET scan also regarding the aggressive tumors. So I think we'll proceed according to our chemotherapy protocol followed by radiations. Then we'll have the evolution of the disease. Then we can think about the neuroendocrine type like the etoposide and other if the patient recurs in that cases. So this is a very new and interesting case, I think. So we got the opinions from different like Don Dizan and also Rajesh and also
Rujavan,
specialists from the.
Can I say something?
Yeah, you can add. No, Professor Mohazal, you can add. Yeah.
Yes. Neuroendocrine tumor and differentiation of neuroendocrine tumor from other tumors are not uncommon. Lately, I got a case of CA prostate with neuroendocrine differentiation, right? He was diagnosed in India and came to me, and it was recommended that he should be given docetaxel and carboplatin. As a doctor consultant from the India now said, the addition of platinum to standard treatment will be a good choice. I think that is a good choice. Docetaxel and carboplatin, the PSA came down to 0.01, and along with that he is now receiving, he has completed the chemotherapy part of it, and now he is receiving Zoladex and bicalutamide. With that, for last 6, 7, 8 months his disease is under full control, and initially as he had hematuria, for that he received local radiotherapy. So that is a different case, but it also arises from breast and prostate. That is an example I am giving. In this patient, I think the second part of the chemotherapy should contain platinum, and docetaxel and platinum is a good choice.
Yeah.
And following that, she should be treated like a breast, as she has receptor positive, I mean the hormone receptor positive. So she should be treated like the hormone positive breast cancer after administering the second part of the chemo with a taxane and a platinum. Thank you.
Good, sir. Now we move on to our another panelist.
Sure, I have one question with Rajesh, sir.
Yes. Sure.
Okay, sir, you were saying about the conventional fractionation for this patient, particular this case. Can you have any better explanation why we go for the hypofractionation?
Basically, whatever is the hypofractionated regimens you have, whatever trials they have been done, whatever is like the START A, START B trials and the hypo trials, everything has been done only for IDC. It is for invasive ductal carcinomas. So there is no special histologies which has been included in these trials, and we don't have any evidence to say like hypofractionation will have the same benefit like conventional fractionation for this special group of patients. So that's the reason I wanted to specifically say like to go for a conventional fractionation of 15-25 gray. Maybe the nodal regions, maybe we might need to think carefully before we treat, but if there is no extranodal disease present or the surgeon is very clear that the axilla has been removed, I will not irradiate the axilla. Maybe I will treat the chest wall and the supraclav region, because supraclav they would not have addressed the level 3 nodes. Maybe I would have treated the supraclav region and the axilla level 3 nodes along with the chest wall.
Thank you,
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now we move on to Professor Kazi Munzil Kazi, sir. Your valuable comment.
Thank you so much. In this case, actually, neuroendocrine tumor of primary breast is very rare and its prognosis is not good. So in this scenario, the difference is grade 2 and not a small cell variant. So my suggestion is as per breast schedule, like taxane-based chemotherapy. And after that, if there is recurrence or if there is grade 3, then we can give the other carboplatin or etoposide.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, Selim Reza, sir, your valuable comment.
Thanks, Dr. Udangshaw. Definitely, breast cancer with neuroendocrine differentiation is a very rare tumor in our clinical practice. First of all, I think this is a case of carcinoma breast with neuroendocrine differentiations, not a neuroendocrine carcinoma purely. So we should treat the patient as a, in general, our treatment, there's the guideline, there's surgery followed by adjuvant chemotherapy with AC, then it's followed by taxane-based chemotherapy. Then definitely radiotherapy should be performed. And as it is ER positive, we should go for further treatment with hormone therapy. If then further follow-up, the patient develop recurrence, then we should treat the patient with the further chemotherapy with cisplatin or carboplatin with etoposide-based chemotherapy. So this is my comment. Thank you, Udangshaw.
Thank you, sir. Is there any additional comments from our panelists or any question from the audience?
Yeah, I think what you're hearing from all of us, Dr. Ifat, is it's really critical to hone down the diagnosis, because I absolutely agree. Neuroendocrine or a carcinoma with neuroendocrine features is going to be treated very differently than a neuroendocrine carcinoma of the breast. So trying to hone down on what that is going to be really important. But I also think for node positive disease, at least the standard in the US, is to give the taxane. So in that way, I will disagree with Professor Balakrishnan.
Yeah. So we are almost at the end of our discussion. I have a question to Don and Jason, sir. What are the situation? What are the indication? Which time will order for a genomic testing, or as we know, the precision oncology is now getting popular day and day. And sometimes we say in this case, we need to go for a genomic test, although it's very expensive from our country, we have to send it outside. But what are the particular situations or scenario you think we should definitely send a breast cancer case for a genomic profiling?
Right. I think that's a great question, especially for resource utilization. We are not sending genomic testing at the time of an initial diagnosis, because it's really not going to inform what we do at this point in terms of primary or adjuvant treatments. we are looking at it at the point of metastatic disease because, again, we have actionable findings now in breast cancer that prompt or can justify the search for genomic testing. The one thing that we do, or we consider it very greatly, is genetic testing on everybody at the point of diagnosis. And this is something that, Professor Das and I have discussed alongside the GCI about, operationalizing genetic testing as a standard across Bangladesh, for example, because, again, it has therapeutic implications if we find a BRCA mutation for patients. But if we can find those families, then you can intervene and prevent breast cancer in high-risk families. So I hope that answers the question. Again, not sending genetics or genomic testing, tumor testing at the point of diagnosis, but rather sending it at the point of metastatic disease, especially important for hormone-positive breast cancers for which there's multiple now targets.